Good afternoon, traders and investors. Will back here with another one. Ooh, boy, we have a lot to talk about today, guys. We had Jerome Powell come out and be fairly dovish on his speech, keeping rates pretty much the same here and giving some positive economic outlook for the economy here. We also have a number of earnings to go over, guys. PayPal, Airbnb, Qualcomm, Elf Beauty, and oh my, guys, there were some beautiful earnings today to be had and some beautiful continuation in the markets as well. You can see that we ended green pretty much across the boards and yields are tumbling down after Jerome Powell's speech today, setting the first daily downtrends on our yields. So we have a lot to cover, guys. We're going to cover Jerome Powell's speech, of course. We're going to cover our earnings. We will go over the yields shift very briefly here. And once again, we will cover our major technical analysis on our indexes and our major tech names. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And I will do the portfolio update on Friday, guys. It's just that these videos, when we do a lot of earnings and there's a lot of macro news, they tend to be quite long here. So I'll try to keep this one as quick as possible here. But you guys know that I like to cover a lot of things in detail with these videos. So I hope you guys don't mind too much. So let's get into it right away. So what happened today with Jerome Powell and the yields? The markets reacted beautifully to it. Well, the Fed holds rates steady, upgrades assessment of economic growth, guys. And Jerome Powell, I was listening to the speech, he was trying so hard to be hawkish, but there's very little to be hawkish about, and Wall Street was calling the bluff, which is why you had a rise in the markets today. Very, very nice speech by Jerome Powell. Not much changed in the pre-written statement, though. However, it's the way he answered the questions. The questions today by reporters and analysts were very, very, very precise, and he was kind of trying to dance around them as much as possible, trying to maintain his hawkish allure, but people were not buying it, guys. It's very tough. The job market is very tight, and wage growth has been coming down ever so slightly. And he mentioned that wage growth has not been an important factor in inflation, which is very good for rates being able to potentially come down. He's also very happy with the tightening cycle that they've done. So they've obviously been offloading a lot of the balance sheet here, and it's been going very, very well for the Fed. And when asked about the direction of rates, he did say that it's a bit early to talk about rate cuts here, but Wall Street once again calling that bluff because the economy is doing good, the job markets is doing good, guys, and everything is remaining resilient despite the increase in interest rates. And what he didn't mention, what the market's kind of taken for granted here, is that the recent rise in yields here, guys, if you check the yields here, right, and more specifically the 10-year, these long-term yields have done a lot of the damage that Jerome Powell didn't have to do here, okay? So that's a big facet that I want everybody to understand here. The most recent rise in yields corresponding to a market crush in the past 3 months has really done a lot of the Fed's work for them. And that is a main factor here in play. So let's go over the bullet points very quickly, then we'll move on to earnings here. So they kept the target range here of rates between 5.25% and 5.5%, which was the expectation here, where it has been since July. They did say that they will do one potential more rate increase, but didn't mention exactly when, and they remained data dependent. That is the important factor to maintain here, right? So the decision included an upgrade to the committee's general assessment of the economy. So that's what I was saying. The Fed members are fairly bullish here on the economy as a whole here, guys. So very, very good, FOMC meeting by Jerome Powell, in my opinion here. I love the analyst questions, guys. If you want to look into this article yourselves, you can definitely do it here. I do recommend it here just to get a sense of the change in tone and how it affected yields here. So you'll see that Jerome Powell here, he was trying to be fairly hawkish answering some of these questions. The process of getting inflation sustainably down to 2% has a long way to go, right? As Jerome Powell said in the conference here, he stressed that the central bank hasn't made any decisions yet for its December meeting. So hike, no comment here. The committee will always do what it thinks is appropriate at the time here. Powell added that the FOMC is not considering or even discussing rate reductions at this time. So they're still trying to hit terminal rates, and then they're going to be data dependent, kind of pulling back from the hawkishness of last meeting where he really drove higher for longer and which the market didn't like. And that caused the big uptick in yields that we've been seeing here over the past month here, right? So he also said the risks around the Fed doing too much or too little to fight inflation have become more balanced. So that's very, very good, guys. They're getting the impression here that they are threading the needle quite adequately here. This signals that while there's a potential risk for the Fed to do more, the bar has become higher for rate hikes, and we're clearly seeing this play out with 2 consecutive meetings of no policy action from the Fed, said a senior investment strategist at Alliance Investment Management. So very, very good, guys. Pretty much We're going to get a comment here on the economy, right? The post-meeting statement had indicated that economic activity expanded at a strong pace in the third quarter. Very, very well. The statement also noted that employment gains have moderated since earlier in the year, but remain strong. So jobs market coming slightly down here, and they did acknowledge here that the GDP was on fire. Gross domestic product expanded at a 4.9% annualized rate in the third quarter, stronger than even elevated expectations here, right? So very, 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 very good. Few changes to the statement, and you will see here, guys, right? So the statement continues to note that the committee is still determining the extent of additional policy firming that it may need to achieve its goals here. So they're pulling ever so slightly back on being firm of how high they need to go and how long they need to keep them, guys, right? There are very few hints in the meeting. So once again, I'll just recap here as a conclusion. Very, very, very few notable elements here that you could have taken out of the meeting, but it was his tone. And we've been saying that all week, guys. Jerome Powell's tone was going to be the issue here. And he gave a very, very decent tone here, kind of pulling back from last month's meeting where he really drove home higher for longer here. He even mentioned that committee members had since been revising their SEP dot plot statements that they had made, right? So very, very good overall FOMC meeting. I was very pleased at today's meeting. And you can see it down here in the yields, guys. The yields finally setting a daily downtrend in motion, guys. This is the first daily downtrend on yields since the month of August. Very, very, very bullish for yields coming down here. You'll see it on the 20-year as well, right? Bouncing fairly down. Daily downtrend is commenced. First daily downtrend on the 20-year since pretty much the end of August as well. So we will see if this has potentially marked the top of your long-term yields. Very, very, very important. So that concludes our statement here on the Jerome Powell statement today. Let's move into earnings right away. And we're going to start it off with a banger here, guys. PayPal reporting very decent earnings, guys. Look at this after hours push by PayPal, up pretty much over 4% pretty much in the after hours here. Initial bearish reaction, but then pretty much during the call, they continued to rise here back up to $54. Very, very decent report by PayPal, guys. They had a double beat, and they actually guided to the upside. They said that the Q4 was going to come in slightly light, but they are very bullish on their expectations for next year in terms of expanding profit margins for the next year, which is exactly what people want to hear, and expanding total monthly payments and total active users here. So double beat by PayPal. Very, very pleased to see that. We may actually start to get a little bit of a bullish rally here. May just be marking the bottom of PayPal. Don't want to speak too soon, but this is what investors were looking for. They were looking for confidence from management, and management delivered today here. So PayPal earnings beat, guidance light for Q4 amid CEO's new growth plans here. So very, very good here, guys. Right. The guidance was Q4 outlook is below street on revenue and EPS, though we believe that a more salient number will be what's implied for the pace of improvement in transaction gross profit. So good profit expansion for the next year. However, this current quarter could be slightly light here. And what I want to say, guys, is they've been doing a great job here of marketing themselves in terms of getting included in the Apple Wallet. And that was a big focus here on the call today. I'll go through the PayPal slides because PayPal always does a great job here of running us through these slides here. So look at all this, guys, right? So revenue of $7.4 billion, growing 8% and 9% in terms of foreign transaction volume here. Very, very good, above guidance. Ongoing operating discipline with non-transaction related expenses declining 12%. So not only is the revenue growing, they are decreasing expenses, which is exactly what you want to see. Total payment volume growing 15% at spot and 13% considering foreign exchanges here, guys. Very, very, very solid here. Solid cost management as well here. Solid earnings growth. Look at this. Fiscal year 23, non-GAAP EPS now expected to grow 21%. So they're growing EPS. 21%, over 20% is exactly what you want to see. And they have done a number of share repurchases this year, guys, and they have amazing free cash flow, $4.6 billion of free cash flow and $5 billion of buybacks this year. That's like 5% of the entire float in terms of PayPal stock here. So very, very good. Look at transactions. 11% transaction growth, 6.3 billion transactions made here, right? We've went over the payment volume numbers and the revenue numbers. Very, very, very good numbers. Amazing free cash flow, amazing EPS growth as well here. So very, very good. And you can see, guys, PayPal is absolutely massive, guys. 430 million active consumer and merchant accounts here, 1.5 trillion in total payment volume, 24 billion payment transactions. Absolutely massive. Look at this, guys. 200 plus countries that they operate in, 150 currencies, right? So PayPal, one of the leaders in terms of one of the leaders in terms of payment processing, right up there with MasterCard and Visa. Obviously, two slightly separate businesses, but just to show, PayPal is absolutely massive, and people sometimes forget that here. And what they've been really driving home here, guys, is new ways to use PayPal's digital wallet. Customers can now add their eligible PayPal and Venmo credit and debit cards to the Apple Wallet. This is something they've been pushing very, very hard all this quarter, and we do think that it's going to bring them consistent more revenue and consistently more customers as well. As you guys know, being included in Apple's ecosystem is a net boost for absolutely everybody that gets in here. So very, very, very good report by PayPal. You guys saw they're growing absolutely everything and reducing costs, and they also provided shareholders with a very, very, very decent share buyback here, right? So let's move down to here, right? Transaction volume, expenses decline 12% here. Operating margin is healthy, currently standing at over 20% gross and then 15% net here. Very, very good. EPS, you can see the net increase over the past year of EPS. Free cash flow also coming back up to positive before, getting back up to some of those 2022 numbers. Very, very good. And capital allocation, $5.4 billion to stockholders through share repurchases on a trailing 12-month basis. Very, very good, capital allocation here. Buying back their stock, very, very cheap. Reducing weighted average shares, here it is, by 5% year over year. That's huge, guys. That's very, very, very big. So I was very pleased with PayPal's earnings today. They do deserve this rally up here. Let us see if they can continue marching forward here and start recapturing some of this daily uptrend. We'll go over that in our technical analysis. Second company that I want to cover, guys, is Airbnb. Airbnb, one of my favorite plays, but haven't picked it up in a while, guys. Was looking to get it below the 110 area. We might actually be able to get it, guys. Airbnb falling off here in the after hours about 3%. They were down all the way, 5% all the way to 113. 110 on this stock is my sweet spot. Really like it down in this previous range here. You guys can see it's been previous support for a while. So if Airbnb does present me an opportunity down here, I will definitely be picking up some shares here. And it was a bit of a mixed report, but I liked what I heard by Airbnb as a whole. Beats on revenue, but offers weaker than expected guidance. So because of macro uncertainty, you guys obviously know what's been happening in the Middle East and whatnot as of late. So they have issued a slight weak tone on guidance here, but very, very good. Look at this, guys. Total nights and experiences for the third quarter were 113.2 million, stronger than analysts surveyed. This is the one metric that people want to see on Airbnb. You guys obviously know that Airbnb is now a profitable company, so that's not an issue anymore. It all comes down to nightly experiences, which is basically users, right? And you can see that users have been increasing steadily here on the platform here. Very, very good. Double beat by Airbnb. You'll see that they beat on EPS by a massive amount, guys. Look at this return on EPS, 200%. $6 a share in comparison with the $2 expected was great, and a slight beat on revenue here. So very, very, very good. Look at this massive beat on EPS. That's going to translate to more and more very juicy profit margins here. So you can see, guys, here, profit margins will be in the mid to high 20% for the quarter as well here. So very, very good. Revenue grew 18% year over year. Very, very, very good. Total nights and experiences, 113. That's the headline, up from 99.7 million. So that's very, very, very good, guys. They had a very decent guidance here. They guided slightly down in the fourth quarter here for the quarter that's ongoing right now, but still year-over-year growth is going to be 12 to 14%. Very, very, very good, guys. But you can see here, right? We're seeing greater volatility early in Q4, closely monitoring macroeconomic trends and geopolitical conflicts that may impact travel demand. So that's the one little tidbit here that was negative for Airbnb. But if you see the investor slide here coming in here, right? Revenue, 18% year over year bump here. Very, very, very good. Net income, right? Very, very good bump here on net income as well. Up from pretty much almost about $3.5 billion last quarter. Look at this. Net income margin was 129%, and adjusted net income margin was 47%. Very, very good. That's because they deferred some tax assets here. So you can see, but the margins are very, very high. That is exactly what we want to see. And free cash flow, Airbnb is building the free cash flow, right? So look at this, guys, 44% TTM free cash flow margin. Very, very, very good. And on the quarter, 1.3 billion. Absolutely amazing job by Airbnb and massive gross bookings revenue here. So very good numbers from Airbnb as a whole. Can't say really anything bad for them except from their little bit of macroeconomic and geopolitical uncertainty that they hinted to, but nothing wrong with this company whatsoever. Travel does remain strong with the consumer, and if this company does trail back into the 110 area, I will definitely be writing some options of Airbnb, looking to pick up some shares down here. So very satisfied. Now our third company, going to look over Qualcomm. Qualcomm, another one of our semiconductor plays. After AMD yesterday came out with substantially very amazing numbers, you'll see that Qualcomm was largely the same here. Qualcomm, very bullish earnings report here, even though year over year, what happened with Qualcomm is last year, a lot of companies, guys, coming out of the pandemic really brought a lot of revenue forward, and Qualcomm is more specifically exposed to smartphones, and a lot of people brought smartphone demand forward here, 2020, 2021, and early 2022. So Qualcomm, very difficult numbers to compare to on a year-over-year basis. But as a whole, in general, it was quite a decent report here. Beat on earnings and beat on revenue as well here. Very decent. You guys will see that Qualcomm always posting very decent profit margins here, always about 20%. But you can see this decline in revenue ever since last year as revenue tends to normalize here in opposed to 2022 numbers. So Qualcomm, you guys know on the channel, I've been playing this stock a boatload here in the lower 110, 108 area. And I will continue to play this stock. This stock had a very nice boost in the after hours. You guys will see up over 5% on their earnings. So let's go over a few of the major headlines. Gives strong forecast, signaling chip slump recovery here. And that's what we've been talking about, guys. A few of our chip makers have signaled that although we are in a slight dip in terms of chip demand, which we were going over with Taiwan Semiconductors when we covered their earnings report, right? You'll see that they're now up, and AMD said the same thing. Even though that there was a slight little dip in chip demand here, it is picking back up here. So Qualcomm reported fourth quarter earnings that beat expectations despite big year-over-year declines. We'll get into that. Give a strong forecast for the current quarter. So very good here by Qualcomm here. Let's go over a few of the little numbers here. So what I did want to come down here to is revenue during the quarter declined 24% year over year. Tough comps in relation to last year from 11.31 billion last year. That's fine. Overall adjusted revenue fiscal year fell 19% from last year to 35.83 billion, but still a ton of revenue here. Qualcomm's fortunes are tied to the smartphone industry, which has been in a slump for nearly 2 years after the 2020 pandemic created a boom in sales. So pulling forward demand is what happened, and now they're kind of returning to normalizations. The company makes the processors at heart of the most high-end Android devices and many lower-end phones as well. You guys know that they lost their contract for Apple's processing units when Apple started manufacturing them in-house, which was a big deal for Qualcomm a few years ago here. Handset chip sales declined 27%. That's very unfortunate here. Right, the company's automotive business was a bright spot for Qualcomm, increasing 15% year over year to $535 million in sales, but that's a very small portion of their business here. But what I did want to go over here is earlier this year, Qualcomm said it would continue to supply Apple with 5G modems for handsets through 2026. So a bit of their contract with Apple does still remain here. So that is obviously a bullish statement. Now, what they did say, guys, is they said that they're proud of our ongoing relationship with Apple. Very good. And they did provide a decent amount of share repurchases this year, right? $400 million on share repurchases and around $900 million in dividends. So Qualcomm, very solid company, right? It's not a growth company by any metric, in my opinion, anymore, but they're posting fairly decent numbers, guys. Revenue is fine. Free cash flow is fine on the company as well. They don't have a tremendous amount of debt either. They're just kind of holding steady. So although Qualcomm, I don't expect them to just absolutely rocket to all-time highs, I would not mind playing them in this area right here, because in this area, guys, right now, we're trading at a fairly decent price to earnings ratio, and their earnings just came in fairly bullish as well. So I wouldn't be opposed to continuing on playing Qualcomm here between $110 and $100 if I am able to pick up the shares here. So that's pretty much it for the earnings today, guys. I did want to cover ELF, but the video is getting a bit long now. So what we'll do is on Friday, we're going to cover a few more of these, right? So a few more of these that came out today. I want to cover Etsy. I want to cover ELF Beauty because they smashed it. We'll go over Estee Lauder in comparison during that time. And we are going to cover SMCI, Supermicro, which also is a manufacturer of semiconductor chips here. So we'll go over those on Friday because there's not much on Friday that I do want to cover. But tomorrow, Thursday, guys, big day as well. We're going to cover Apple. We're going to cover Palantir, obviously. And I'm either going to choose Starbucks, right? And we may even give a little bit of a kicker if I have time, maybe going over Coinbase ever so slightly here. There's a lot of earnings this week, so we'll try to to get them all in, guys. So without further ado, let's get into our technical analysis here for our major indexes here. So let's do these quickly, guys, because not much has changed. We are still looking for the size of the bounce on SPY here. And as you'll see, the heat map, very, very bullish today. Everything participating in our rally. But big tech was pretty much our lead bulls here on the day here. You can see mixed market across the board, but every single sector was green. Just a few little red names here and there, but very, very good performance by big tech. You can see this on the one-day relative. Every major sector was in the green. And now weekly performance, guys, is reversing. We're now getting some very bullish weekly results on the markets here. So SPY up 1.07%. QQQ, our lead bull here, 1.74. What are we looking for here, guys? 425. If the bulls can engulf 425 in the next few trading days, they will set themselves up nicely for the daily trend change reversal here. Then we will be recapturing more of this weekly move. Recapture more and more of this weekly move could set up for the weekly trend reversal. We've been in a weekly downtrend for the past 3 months, ever since the end of July here. So the bulls could have a chance. This is pretty much our strongest bounce other than the first one. Strongest bounce, right? Third leg down into our sweet spot, bouncing nicely on the weekly here. So now we'll see, can the bulls engulf our 429 area, 425 area, and change the daily trend change? If they fail and pull down a lot of space above our 409.50 level to potentially set up the daily uptrend. So we're looking for the daily uptrend reversal on SPY. Let's see if we get it. Coming off of oversold conditions now, looking fairly decent. QQQ, let me just erase these. These were the thumbnails for yesterday. So QQQ as well, putting in a heck of a bounce here, guys. Going to be looking for 360. Get me as close as possible to 360 or over. Can set up for the daily trend change reversal. Step number 1 by the bulls is complete. Now I need to see step number 2, daily trend change reversal. Get me the daily trend change reversal, and we will be talking about how much of this weekly move all the way up to 372 we can recapture. More and more of it you can set up for the weekly trend change, and then we'll be looking at the monthly. We'll be covering the monthlies on Friday. So let's see how the bulls can push up this week. Looking fairly good for now. Anything above 342.35 now, going to be looking for the daily higher low. Bulls have created the space. Now can they do it? XLF also with a very bullish bounce, guys. We talked about it yesterday. 32.40 was the level to be watching. So the bulls have engulfed it now, setting themselves up for the daily trend change. Any single move down is going to be for a higher low above 31.34. Look for the daily trend change. Step 1 is complete. They got it. They've engulfed the most recent selling move, engulfing move. Now need to see the daily trend change, and hopefully they can recapture a bit more of this weekly leg down, right? 1, 2, 3 weekly legs down into our support base here. Bulls reacting very, very bullishly. And now with Powell out of the way and yields coming down significantly, right? 10-year yield. If it can continue putting this daily downtrend and maybe even setting up, right? If we flush this 4.55 level, right? It's going to come down here, can set up the weekly downtrend. Financials are going to love it. So this is a trailing sector. I would look out for financials, guys. They've been very bearish, but if they start roaring back, it's going to very heavily contribute to SPY gains here. So keep an eye out for that on financials, looking for the daily uptrend shift. Now, XLV Healthcare as well, looking for the daily uptrend shift, but healthcare very, very weak, guys. One of our weakest bull reversal patterns here of them all here. You guys know this leg was absolutely nasty. So we were looking for a potential bounce off resistance in this area. Seems to be what is happening. So now it'll be up to the bulls. If we can't push through this resistance area here yet, it's up to the bulls to hold these lows. I don't want to see them flush 122.60. That's the key level here. So we will see if they can get a little daily uptrend going and start taking back more of this area, guys. It's crucial because this move down on healthcare has been absolutely nasty. If for some reason healthcare doesn't participate in the rally, we're going to be looking down for a line in the sand, 120.25, and the 200 weekly EMA here at 121.50 roughly, right? So keep that in mind. XLV, one of your weakest sectors to bounce so far, but you do have earnings from Eli Lilly and a few others like Moderna tomorrow and Novo Nordisk, right? So a few more big earnings here from healthcare to be had still. So we'll see if they can turn it around, guys. Right? Counting on them because XLV Healthcare is the one that I need to see come back because they represent a very big weight in SPY as well. So we need to see them participate in this rally as well. This move is not enough for me. I need to see them get as high up as 127. Get me up to 127, then we can potentially set up for the daily trend change. But as of now, bears remain in full control. Watch for the flush of 122.67. IWM Russell finally showing a little bit of signs of life, but not much, guys. Kind of looking like healthcare, right? Very weak bounce. Russell still at pretty much 2-3-year lows at the moment here, guys. I need to see them bounce as high as about 168, 170. That would be the sweet spot for me. If we can get up there, you could potentially set up for a daily trend change. As of now, bulls not showing much sign of life, but they are bouncing with the overall market. So it will be a question of whether or not the IWM bulls can continue to bounce with the rest of the market. But for now, growth stocks remain slightly muted. Bears still in full control. Bounce is not enough for me. Get me back above this resistance line here, 168, all the way up to 170 roughly. And then we can talk about daily trend reversal here. But if the markets reverse here tomorrow, it's not going to be looking good. Bears will have another chance to flush. And then we'll be looking, guys, to our line in the sand level. 158 is your last call for the bulls down here. Weekly downtrend, fully in control by the Bears right now. So it's up to the Bears to play defense right now. It's really up to the bulls to prove it to us. How bad do they want it here, guys? Get me back up to 168, 170. We can talk, but for now, still one of our weakest sectors. And now Dow Jones. Dow Jones coming up beautifully, guys. Engulfing move. Love to see it, right? One leg down, two legs down, boom, engulfing. You just smashed your 33,250, which is what we were looking for. So bulls have a chance now. Set the daily higher low. Any move down will be for a higher low. Anything above 32,300 will just be that. We're above our area of support now at this point. I was nervous. Was it going to be resistance? Bulls able to smash through it with Powell's bullish comments here today. So we're now above this whole area of support. I expect bulls to be using it as support once again. So if we do pull back from here, expect to use this area of support to potentially set the daily uptrend. And that would be key, guys, because we're looking once again as our other sectors to reverse most of this third weekly leg down. 1, 2, 3 legs down. Now, how much of this move can the bulls recapture? Get as high as possible, guys. We come all the way back up to our moving averages, 33,800 before retracing, sets up the bulls opportunity for a weekly higher low and potentially weekly trend reversal, which would be your monthly lows. And monthlies still not losing this level. You guys saw it. We were nervous about it in August, but bulls coming back very, very nicely, not closing a candle red in that zone. Nice little wick in this zone here and rejecting beautifully from this area. That's what you love to see. Great job by the bulls here of recovering on Dow Jones. So step 1 is complete. Now I need step 2, daily uptrend reversal. We got a slight bit of that over here. Not much. Now I need to see some more follow through by the bulls here. Now let's move on to Bitcoin ever so slightly because it has made a move. So Bitcoin, very, very nice daily uptrend, and daily uptrend continuing at this point, smashing our previous highs, 33,150 here, now up to 35,600. Very bullish moves in crypto as a whole. As you can see, guys, weekly uptrend is well underway at this point. Bulls in full control, getting slightly overbought on the weekly RSI, but you guys know it's crypto. It can stay overbought for a while. And now your monthly uptrend is resumed in course, guys. This is what I was waiting for here. Hesitation. And now boom to the upside, monthly uptrend confirmed. So bulls in control of everything. It went from bears in control to everything except the monthly. Now bulls in control of everything. Control of the daily uptrend, control of the weekly uptrend, and now control of the monthly uptrend as well. Your next stop for the bulls at this point, guys, will be 37,500. We're pulling up into the slight resistance area now, 35,000 all the way to 37,600. This whole little area right here. Bitcoin now approaching 18, 20-month highs, guys. We haven't been here since pretty much, March, January of last year, right? So it's almost going to be 2 years at this point since Bitcoin's hit there. Very, very bullish, but shorter term time frames, very, very overbought. I cannot buy it up here. I do still have some Bitcoin that we were buying back in the lower 20 areas, which was the area to buy it at. Now we just watch and wait for the bulls to hit their level of resistance. And on the pullback, we will be looking to potentially target these lower areas here, 33 all the way down to 32,000. If we top out here, look for the breakout, retest, and move there higher. Now let's move on to Apple. So major tech now, guys. So moving on to Apple here. Apple with a very, very bullish day, guys, almost closing at 174. Apple with earnings tomorrow after the close. So let's keep an eye on Apple. What did Apple do? Exactly what I wanted them to do, guys. 173.60 smashed by the bulls. Engulfing move. Looks like the indexes right now. The bulls have set themselves up beautifully for a daily trend change here. If earnings are bullish tomorrow and this thing flies, we'll be recapturing so much that the daily uptrend, guys, will be very, very favorable for the bulls. Get me above 175. You get above this whole area of contention right here. Going to be looking bullish. Why? Because the more of this move you take back, guys, I'll remind you, the closer you get to 182.50, that's our weekly lower high. 1, 2, 3 moves down. This was the weekly lower high right here, 182. So get me as close as possible to 182 on a bullish earnings move. You could potentially set up for the weekly trend change, and that would mark your monthly bottom on Apple pretty much. So going to be looking forward to Apple earnings tomorrow. Obviously, if they're negative, guys, your area to watch out for 165.75 here. Bulls have created a lot of space here. So Apple bulls have some room to wiggle with, right? Around 4.5% top to bottom that they can wiggle with. So even if they pull down for earnings, looking for the daily higher low, daily uptrend reversal. And you guys know if we come down and flush perhaps, well, we're just looking in the 160 down to 150 range. That's that whole little pocket of support right here. So Apple earnings tomorrow, we will see what happens. AMD, look at this move on AMD, guys. Monster move on AMD. Obviously, I will be called away on my AMD shares this week. We will cover that on Friday. Love this move on AMD, almost up 10%, and they deserved it. They smashed earnings. We covered it in yesterday's video. So now, complete engulfing move by the bulls. Any pullback is going to be for a daily higher low above $92, $93, right? So daily uptrend potential is very, very probable for the bulls at this point, guys. Looking for the weekly double bottom right here. Weekly double bottom right. And if they start smashing, guys, 111.53, that will be your weekly uptrend confirmed on AMD. That hasn't happened, guys, since all the way back here in May, right? So very, very bullish action on AMD, really reiterating their status as one of the leading chip manufacturers in the game right now, leading AI GPU manufacturers as well, with NVIDIA number 1 and 2 pretty much on the board here. So we'll be looking, can the bulls come all the way up to 111.41, smash this and set the weekly uptrend? They have a lot of momentum, but even if they start pulling back here, tons of space on the daily to set the higher low, right? If this resistance area acts as resistance, if they don't just blow past it here, well, you'll be looking for the daily higher low, 1 and 2 step this into our higher area here into next week. If they can smash 111.41 next week, it will be confirmed weekly uptrend. We haven't had that in a while, and that would confirm your 5-month bottom on AMD. So very, very bullish. Love to see it. Bulls getting more and more in full control of these shorter time frames. Amazon, massive day on Amazon, guys. 3%. Look at this engulfing move. Just continues on Amazon. Now they've flushed the bears, right? The bears had the weekly downtrend. Look, right? Low, high, lower high, lower low, and now engulfing move on the weekly, guys. They engulfed 134.67, which was what we were looking at in the 2 videos prior to today, right? So engulfing move by the bulls at this point after very strong earnings here. So now any move down on Amazon will just be for a daily higher low. This whole area will be acting as support at this point. So expect, if it does taper off here, expect them to have a little bounce area here in the 133s. The moving averages should be pulling up into that area as well. Amazon should be able to hold that because their earnings were very good. And we are looking for the daily uptrend reversal at this point, and we got the weekly engulfing move. So now bears have lost the weekly downtrend. It's up to the bulls to reset the weekly uptrend at this point, right? Are they going to just V-shape this back up to the highs here, or are they going to have to do it in 2 steps? We will see, but bears just got erased here. Engulfing move on the weekly, loss of the bearish weekly downtrend here on Amazon, recapturing it right away. Bulls looking very healthy on the daily, very healthy on the weekly, and now with this weekly engulfing move, guys, that is your monthly higher low on Amazon, right in Will's sweet spot. Look at that, right? Picture perfect. Very, very good by Amazon bulls. We will keep a close eye on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon continues to march towards 52-week highs this year. Now let's move down to Google. Right, so Google performing well on the day, guys, up almost 2% on the day. They're trying their hardest to recover more and more of this earnings move. The level that I have on the watch, guys, is 130 all the way to 132. Get me in these moving averages, guys. I'm expecting a rejection. That's just normal. After such a violent move, they're not going to pull an Amazon. There's just too much space. I mean, they could, but in my opinion, it's like a 2-3% scenario, right? Unless the rest of the market is extremely bullish, Google is not going to V-shape this. They may have to do it in 2 steps. The 2 steps that I want to see get me back up to 130, 132. Then I can afford for the bulls to take a break because that would be a recapture of about 50, 60% of the drop. Then you can set up for the daily trend change, move to the upside here. But Google bulls reacting nicely off the lows here. This 200, the green line down here is the 200 daily moving average, rejecting off it nicely here. And so we will be looking for the bulls to recapture more and more of this weekly move. Get me back up to 130, 132 in the next couple of weeks, guys. It'll be looking good. That way, even if they pull back, they could reverse the daily time frame and the weekly as well, leading into Q4 into the rest of the year. So looking for that on Google. Bears still in short-term control here of the daily time frame. Yes, they can have a flush. So we'll be looking whenever this move tops out. Can they set the daily higher low? Anything above 121.53 will just be for that, for the daily uptrend reversal here on Google. Keep it one day at a time here. And if we pull down in this area, you guys know the drill. I'm writing puts between 120 and 110. Meta. Meta performing beautifully today, 3.5% to the upside, guys, engulfing the most recent down leg here, almost entirely, guys. 317, the area to watch, right? 1, 2, 3 moves down. Look for your higher low right here. Lower high right here, 318.75, the area to watch. So bulls now shaping up very healthily for the daily trend change, guys. I love to see an engulfing move like this. They gave themselves so much space to set up for the daily trend change. So whenever this move does top up, we're just looking for a higher low compared to our previous low here of 279. And I do think the bulls will be able to do that. Meta earnings were very, very bullish, and they gave good guidance for Q4 and next year. So it wouldn't surprise me if Meta does keep running here. And the bulls are looking to keep this alive, looking to also keep this weekly bounce alive too. Rejecting out of our support area here, came down here ever so briefly after earnings here. You can see it only lasted 1 day, and now we're already back up to around 312, so bouncing nicely, and now well off our 300 psychological support. So if the bulls engulf 318.56 over the next few days, guys, daily uptrend is going to be heavily likely for the bulls here, and then they will be able to potentially even V-shape this weekly and start resuming this weekly uptrend for the bulls here. So very, very nice day on Meta. Keep a close eye on this. But if we top out, guys, tons of space above 280 pretty much, right, to set that daily higher low down here and launch from there. Very bullish. Microsoft here. Microsoft, amazing day by Microsoft, guys. 2.35% to the upside. They were looking to protect the daily uptrend, right? Came all the way down here after earnings. And look, they did it. V-shaped and cracked the highs. Love to see it. Daily uptrend once again confirmed by the bulls here. Now, any move back is going to be for a daily higher low. Anything above 327.11 will just be for that. Microsoft with amazing earnings, doesn't surprise me. And now look, weekly uptrend reversal by the bulls. So weekly downtrend lost by the bears. Now weekly uptrend reversal by the bulls. Love to see it, guys. Microsoft is back on track, and now your monthly lows are set on Microsoft as well. So very, very bullish movement on Microsoft here. We will be targeting once again our 52-week highs in the 360 level. That's just the next area of resistance, and we do have it's a little bit of a zone, right? 350 all the way to 360, this area of contention. Bulls doing a great job today, leading the market. Doesn't surprise me. Microsoft gave great guidance for Q4 and the next year, so they will be able to get it done, in my opinion here. But if for ever which reason this move tops out now, tons of space for the bulls to set another daily higher low. And now that we're above this whole previous area of resistance, right? This whole area came into play here, came into play here. This whole box here is going to be support. So if the bulls come down here, look, you have support, horizontal support, moving averages curling up here. Going to be tough for the bears to roll that over. Very, very healthy for Microsoft. Now let's move down to NVIDIA. Oh boy, guys. NVIDIA bulls continue to surprise us here. We were talking about this the entire last week. We were talking about 404, 400 level. Look at this. Unable to close below it were the bears. So now bulls back on track, guys, right? We were saying if they get back up to 437, they could have a chance of running the bears over, cleaning their track. So 1, 2, almost 3 moves down, engulfing move now. Now we target the most recent lower high, 438 pretty much at this point. This wasn't a full leg. They didn't flush down. It was pretty much like a triple bottom at these levels, not able to close below. So I'll give that to the bulls. So this move is going to be one move for the bulls at this point. Get me as close as possible to 437 before topping out, and we can talk about the daily trend change here. It's also very, very healthy, guys, because NVIDIA was so at risk of losing the weekly uptrend and coming into a weekly downtrend if you flush that area here. But bulls playing outstanding defense of the line in the sand level. So now step number 1 is complete. We've gotten away from this. Now need to set the daily uptrend here, get back on track on the short-term timeframes from the bulls, and really start protecting more and more of this weekly timeframe as well here, guys. So done a great job here. Now get me as close to 437, but if you top out before, decent amount of space, guys. Anything above 392 now, looking for the daily higher low for daily uptrend reversal. Beautiful protection by NVIDIA. No earnings close. Most of this probably came off the back of AMD earnings and bullish other earnings today as well. SMCI had bullish earnings, right? AMD, Qualcomm. So most of our semis are signaling a reversal in a chip slump, but you guys know NVIDIA is kind of outside of that bracket because they're growing other business metrics at the same time. So, you know, benefiting from good macro and good company specific news as well. So we will see, can they get it done, guys, right? But if we come back down here, watch to this level again, that's the line in the sand. Now let's move down to Tesla. Tesla here with a decent little day of recovery, 2.5% to the upside here. We're really struggling in the morning, guys, but after Jerome Powell and the FOMC continued to come up here in the upside. So we're looking for the bulls to put in a nice enough of a move compared to 222. Get me as high as possible to 222. Could set up for the daily uptrend reversal here. We are looking for the weekly bottom after earnings. You guys see rejected nicely here from our 190-ish and 196-ish 200 weekly moving average with this green line. And we are in my sweet spot, guys. This has been previous resistance this entire time. This whole little zone here, right? 210 all the way down to roughly 185-ish is the first area of this resistance. So bears were struggling with that. And it's nice to see the bulls start to put an end to it here, but need to see a bit more from Tesla, guys. Need to come up to about 222. Get me as close as possible to 222. We can talk about the daily trend reversal here. But as of now, if we do reverse in the next couple of days, the bounce is not strong enough. If we come back to the lows, we're giving the bears an opportunity to flush here. And if we do flush, you guys know where we're going. We're going right into about the 181, 175 pocket. That's where I will be looking to write options if we do come down there as well. Still being plagued by negative EV news, negative solar news, and negative company specific news after that terrible earnings call by Elon Musk roughly 2 weeks ago, right? So Tesla still with a little bit of work to do, but turning the corner. Not enough for me specifically yet. I would like to see them come up as close as possible. Give me 215, guys, and that will be high enough of a move here to really set up nicely for a daily trend change. As of now, bears are in still control. And now let's move on to our two last ones, Palantir and PayPal. Palantir reacting nicely today after the FOMC. Not up that much, but they do have earnings tomorrow, guys, so it'll remain same as I've been saying all week, guys. Earnings is crucial for this company. Daily downtrend maintained by the bears, right? Now, 1370 is going to be your line in the sand level. This is kind of like NVIDIA, right? Triple touch of the line in the sand level, kind of looking like NVIDIA. Cannot lose this level, guys. It's crucial. If we lose this level, the weekly uptrend will be lost. Currently, the bulls are protecting that very decently, bouncing off our moving average here. So we will see tomorrow earnings. Can they protect the weekly uptrend? If we get a nice little move off of earnings, guys, we'll be targeting 1690. Get me as close to 1690 after bullish earnings. Could set up for the daily trend reversal, and then your weekly bounce will be underway. We'll be looking for the maintenance of this weekly uptrend. So everything relies on earnings. Keep an eye on these two levels after the call, because Palantir is usually very volatile after earnings. 1690, and then to the lower side, 1370. If we flush to the downside, guys, you know me, I'll be picking up some Palantir if we come all the way to the $12. But I do have a bullish lean for Palantir tomorrow, so we'll see how they do. And lastly, PayPal, guys. PayPal, very, very bullish earnings. We covered it earlier in the video today. So now PayPal with the ability here to regain a lot of these lower time frames. So hourly uptrend has been set over the last few days. You guys can see that, right? Now we need to cover the daily trend change as well, right? So we're up to about $54 in after hours, right? All the way up to about roughly around $54. So let's just cover that. We're looking exactly here. 54.55 is the person who started, right? Leg number one, leg number two down. Now we're getting an engulfing move to the upside. So if we can capture this guy right here with an engulfing move tomorrow, potentially, and into Friday, right? Well, that is going to set up nicely for a daily trend change. PayPal has not had a daily uptrend, guys, since all the way back in August. Okay, so that would be very, very bullish for PayPal here. That is what I'm going to be looking out for. We'll see if they can get it done. Bears, we're in control, but now with this bullish earnings, we may get a bit more institutional investors, right, to potentially come into the stock now that the company has given good guidance. They've reiterated that they've cut costs. Their share buyback program is doing absolutely amazing. They've increased target margins for 2024. They guided slightly lower for Q4, this current quarter right here, but it's going to be a blip. PayPal's business is back on track, and that's what long-term investors and institutions want to see. So hopefully a lot more demand for the stock will be coming in, and we can set up for the daily trend change and potentially start reversing a lot of this very, very bearish weekly move down here, right? And the weekly is quite a bit higher than that, right? Talking all the way up to $65. So we would have to get a heck of a daily trend change going here and start moving all the way back up here into the $60 range to even talk about weekly trend changes, right? So that's pretty much it for PayPal. That's pretty much it for today's video, guys. Hope it wasn't too long. A lot of stuff to cover, but we did cover everything beautifully in detail here. Hope you guys had a great day of trading. As always, if you liked the video, consider dropping me a like. Really helps me out. And if you're new to the channel, guys, consider subscribing. We do these pretty much every day after the close. And as always, if you have any comments whatsoever, macro, options, stocks, feel free to leave them down below in the comments, and I would tell you what to do if I'm looking to buy the stock myself, okay? So hope you guys had a great day. I will see you guys after the close tomorrow. Apple earnings tomorrow. Watch out. Let's do it, guys. Take care and have a great night. Peace.